Welcome to a Discover You workshop, Positive Relationships Part 1. We're going to talk about listening so your kid will hear you. And we chose this topic because it's so important that we as adults recognize our ability to connect with young people through listening. We always say we want young people to be able to hear us, that we want them to really express what they're sharing. We want them to talk to us. We want them to be able to hear the advice and the direction that we want to give them. But in order for them to feel comfortable talking and sharing with us, and also not shut down when we want to share information with them, we first have to build some connection with them and build some trust and rapport. And we do that through listening. We're going to go through 6 key ingredients of listening and how we connect with our young people in such a way that they will be able to hear us. First, we want to just pause and reflect and consider. Are you a good listener? Just pause, consider, reflect. Do you consider yourself a good listener? Could be a yes, could be a no, might be a depends on the situation or the person. This reflection might even give you pause to think about, well, what and when and who am I really listening to? And then consider, how often do the young people in your life share things with you? Are they always sharing things with you daily, regularly, the ups and downs of their day? Is it periodically, once in a while, maybe when it's a big thing, or maybe it's only the little things and they're not sharing big things with you? Maybe you try to start a conversation with a young person and you kind of get that closed off, neutral response, those one-word answers to those questions that we ask. And maybe you're not having any interaction with young people in a way that's building relationship or building connection. So just pause and think, are you a good listener? And how often do the young people in your life share things with you? Maybe make a note. Maybe just pause and reflect and think, oh, I wonder if there's opportunity to make an adjustment based on your answers to these questions. Welcome to Discover You. Discover You is a program helping adults, helping youth. We want youth to embrace their future with courage, confidence, and connection. And we do that through equipping adults to connect and relate with young people in a way that they're going to develop the skills to be successful in their future, be successful in relationships, to be able to manage their choices well, to have critical thinking skills, to really just be the amazing people that they have the potential to be. We want to see that for all our youth. And we want to help you as adults do that and equip young people to have that courage, confidence, and connection in their future. We do that through workshops like this. We also equip with our content and programs and workshops that adults can use with the young people in their span of care. So if you're with a youth serving organization, an education system, a school entity, an out of school time program, we have programs and workshops for you to equip young people with all of the skills and tools they need to be successful so they can embrace their future. So if you want more information, obviously you have the information to have joined us for this workshop. And we of course have more resources for you should you be interested. Welcome to Discover You. Let's pause and just reflect on this quote for a moment. We don't learn from talking, we learn from listening. You hear the phrase, you have 2 ears and you have 1 mouth, right? You should be listening twice as much as you're talking. You should be pausing, hearing people, really tuning in. This is important for any relationship. All of the tools and resources we're going to share with you through our workshops are specific to youth, but they're really specific to any type of relationship. And they're designed for your development and to help others develop. We don't learn from talking, we learn from listening. That's when we have the opportunity to learn more about other people, where we might learn information. We might learn something that causes us to reflect on our own development and our own self-awareness. We learn from listening, and we learn a lot about young people when we listen to them. Think of a young person in your life. Could be a student, Could be someone in your organization that you serve and work with. Could be someone in your home, in your family, in your community. Just think of one young person and all of the potential that they have and all of the things that they might have going on in their lives. They could be having successes, they could be struggling, they could be having positive relationships, they could be having struggles in their relationships. They could be wondering so many things. You have that opportunity to be that person. We all had that person that we knew we could go to, that we knew would listen to us, that we knew would pay attention. You have the potential to be that person in one young person's life, not to mention the impact you would have if it were more than one person. But just think of one young person in your life right now and hold their image, their thought in your mind as we go through today's workshop. And think about how you can apply the skills and tools that we're going to learn to your relationship with that individual. How would we pay attention to them? We're going to go over 6 key ingredients to listening. And the first one is really just paying attention. Just slowing down, focusing in. There's so much going on in the world. There's so much going on in our world, the world of other people, the world of young people. There's so much to focus in on. There's so much going on. Focusing in and paying attention to that one moment, that one key time is really crucial. When we're paying attention, we create space. We slow down. We wait for the other to talk and share with us. We're utilizing silence. We're not the one talking when we're paying attention. And we're creating silence in our mind. It's so easy to say, oh, I'm listening, but are we really? Or are we busy thinking of all the things that we need to get accomplished next? All of our to-do lists, all of the thoughts that we want to share maybe with this individual about what they're talking to us about. But if you really slow down and create that space and focus in by eliminating distractions and giving your mental attention to the individual, focusing in on that moment, what do we have the potential to learn? What do we have the potential to create? That trust, that rapport, that respect. Some key actions that we can have when we're paying attention would be to stop what we're doing. It sounds so obvious, but how hard can it be to turn away from our laptop, turn away maybe from the stove when we're cooking dinner, the folding of the laundry, the task that we're trying to accomplish, right? We always are in this do, go, go, go kind of mode. And when someone comes to us and wants to talk to us about something, it could be something major and it could be something minor. We need to eliminate those distractions and pay attention to them, whether it's for 30 seconds or 30 minutes. Set your phone down, move out from around behind your desk, turn away from the chore that you're doing at home, turn your body toward that individual, make eye contact, focus on them, smile, engage, can encourage them to continue to share and talk, even if it's something that is just not even really important to you. The things that are important to young people can be very different than the things that are important to adults, but that doesn't mean it's any less important to them. They could be sharing something about a video game. They could be sharing something about school or a funny joke that they shared with their friend in the lunchroom. That's something that's important to them. Make them feel important by listening, by paying attention, to putting the focus on them and show them that you're focusing on them with your body language and your mental attention. And as we listen, it is important to withhold judgment. The things that are important to others aren't always important to us. And sometimes people are saying and doing things that we don't agree with. And there's oftentimes we want to maybe contribute or guide or direct. But first, we have to create that relationship so that then we can be heard. So our first task after we're paying attention and tuning in and listening to someone is that we withhold that judgment. And this is a key aspect of empathy, being able to withhold our judgment, keep an open mind, knowing that we might have opinions and viewpoints and perspectives that are different. We're going to set those aside for a moment. We're going to be open to new ideas, open to new perspectives, open to the possibilities. We might have our perspective flipped by listening to another. We might learn something that we hadn't considered before. It might give us the opportunity to pause and reflect and challenge our own belief system. When we withhold judgment, we withhold criticism. So easy to direct and critique and try to correct. That's not what people are asking for when they first come and share something with us. They just want to share. They just want to talk about something going on in their day, maybe a struggle, maybe an excitement. We can also demonstrate that we're withholding judgment by not arguing with them. Right? Keeping our perspective and opinion to ourselves initially. There's going to be a key ingredient and a key step that we're going to get to where we're sharing, where we're talking and collaborating. But we first are just tuning in, paying attention, listening in such a way that we're not selling our own point of view, that we're hearing the point of view of another. One of the key things that we can do to withhold judgment and demonstrate that we're withholding judgment is avoid interrupting. It is such a, I don't know, quite frankly, almost just a rude, selfish, and inconsiderate thing to interrupt others when they're speaking. When we're interrupting, we're telling them that what we have to say is more important than what they have to say. You'll have your turn. You'll have an opportunity to talk and share and collaborate. But first, we have to tune in, pay attention, and be open to the perspective of another as we withhold our judgment and let them speak without being interrupted, and keep that criticism in that direction to ourselves. Because then we're going to be able to reflect. We're not assuming things about the other. We're not assuming what the end result of this conversation is going to be. We're not going to assume what their action or their choice is going to be. We're just reflecting back to them. We're mirroring information and emotions. We're hearing what they have to say and sharing it back with them, maybe through paraphrasing. We're conveying to them that we're on the same page and that we have heard them. So we're going to pause, reflect, and then share back with them using some easy sentence strings for you, what we've heard them say. So some sentence strings to help you with this step is, what I hear you saying is, and then you're going to share what you've heard. Maybe you would say, well, it seems like you're excited about, it seems like you're struggling with, it seems like that was a challenge. It seems like you have figured out what you want to do. It could be anything. We're just reflecting back to them what they're sharing. And we want to be sure to include the emotion that we've heard from them along with that information, right? So it must be difficult to decide if you want to. It must be frustrating to feel like you're not doing well in all kinds of ways to indicate to them that we've heard them. It sounds like. I especially like this, I can imagine that. Right? It's a way to start to share your perspective without interjecting it. Right? So we can imagine what it's like to have experienced certain things, even if we haven't experienced them. But we can imagine that there's an emotion attached to the information that an individual is sharing with us. We can put ourselves in their place. We can walk in their shoes. We can take on their perspective and imagine what that might be like for them. This next one, if I hear you correctly, what a great clarifying phrase. How often are we wrong? Maybe we've heard what we want to hear and not what the other is saying. What a great way to clarify and make sure that we are on the same page. If I hear you correctly, and then we share with them what we feel like we've heard. Even this next one, you seem to be saying, is a clarifying statement. It's helping us ensure that we're hearing them and that we're on the same page. And how validating is it to feel like we've been heard? That's an incredible feeling, an incredible experience for the other. And in that spirit of clarification, we can start to move on to maybe even asking some questions. We want to remove any doubt or confusion. Now, keep in mind, these questions are not for our benefit. They're questions for the benefit of the other, or maybe they're questions for the benefit of understanding. They're not because we have a need to know. And that can be hard for some of us. We want the details, we want the information. We want to ask, what are all the possibilities that have been considered? But really, when we're clarifying, we're asking. We're not telling others what to do. We're inviting further sharing. And by doing that, we use open-ended questions. And one of our top tips for you is to avoid using the why. Avoid using the word why when we lead in with a question. And there's different philosophies on this, but why can sometimes put people on the defensive. So instead of saying, well, why did you choose to? You could say, well, what led you to that choice? And I know it's essentially the same question, but it sounds different and it feels different. When we ask why, our brain is instantly looking for a justification. So when you hear the question why posed to you, you feel like you have to explain or defend or justify yourself. And we don't want others, especially the young people in our life, to feel that way. We want them to start to even explore in their own mind what led to decisions or what were they thinking, right? Sometimes they're not thinking, right? That's brain development. Our young people are not functioning with fully developed brains yet. That's just science, right? We have the opportunity through connecting with them to help them develop the brain functions of critical thinking so that then they can reflect and clarify for themselves the decisions that they're making. We can create that space for them by listening to them and walking through these key steps, and helping clarify for ourselves creates a space where they're clarifying for themselves what they're talking to you about. Maybe they're just sharing something that was really cool, or maybe it's a struggle that they're having. And by clarifying, we can help them solve their own problem. And isn't that really what youth development is about? Is helping young people develop those skills and tools and resources to become independent, to have critical thinking and problem solving skills in relationship with others. That's the other super cool thing about listening and connecting with young people is we're demonstrating to them how we want them to be in relationship with others, how they can listen to others, how they can listen to us, how then we start to share equally. So when we go through this clarifying step, we want to be asking questions, but we don't want to put someone on the defensive. Remember, we're withholding judgment. So avoid using why questions. And instead, let's use some clarifying questions, open-ended questions. And here are some helps for you again, right? So let me see if I'm clear. I love that one, right? I'm admitting that I might have gotten it wrong, but I want to make sure I'm getting it right. So let me see if I'm clear. Are you talking about? And of course, you fill in the blank. Wait a minute, I'm not following you. That's not even a question, but it's a way to prompt the other to kind of reshare what it is that they're talking to you about. And sometimes in the resharing, they get some clarification. You can also say, well, what do you think about? Right? And this isn't what do you think about, and let me give you the 5 solutions that I want to give you. No. What do you think about what you've shared with me? What do you think about that situation? What do you think about that course? What do you think about that decision? Like, what do you think about it? Right? That's inviting them to pause and reflect and consider, well, what am I thinking about this? Man, the things we can learn about our young people's thought processes when we ask them questions like this, right? Here, tell me about, right? And have that little questioning tone at the end of your voice, right? We want them to know we're interested. Will you further explain? Tell me more. I'm listening. Help me understand. I love that one. People want to be understood. Well, help me. Help me understand you, because sometimes I'm confused. And we really just want them to go on and talk and share more. Isn't that what we hear all the time? My teen doesn't talk to me. Well, when they do start talking to you, listen. As someone has gone on and shared what they're sharing, and you've gone through the steps of paying attention and withholding that judgment and going into that clarification, you have then the opportunity to summarize. Right? So basically, kind of what I hear you saying is, this is what I'm noticing. If I have this right? Those sentence strings that we've just given you kind of lead into that summary statement. And it helps you and the other kind of put into context and put into a framework what the topic is, what the issue is, what's really going on, just by summarizing. And again, we're just restating some key themes. We're reflecting back. We're kind of almost going through the bullet points of everything that's been talked about, because then we're able to move into this opportunity to share. I love this quote from Dr. Stephen Covey. If I were to summarize in one sentence the single most important principle I have learned in the field of interpersonal relations, it would be this: seek first to understand, then be understood. Right? Everything we've talked about to this point is that seeking to understand. Right? We're listening, we're connecting, we're paying attention, we're withholding that judgment, we're clarifying, right? We're reflecting back to them what we're hearing, making sure we're really understanding. But then we too want to be understood. Right? So we want to have that clear understanding of their ideas, feelings, and suggestions, so that then we too can share our ideas, feelings, and suggestions. Right? That's when then the conversation shifts into problem solving. And maybe it's not a problem to be solved. Maybe it's just something you want to reflect and share, and then maybe share something about yourself. Right? And then you're opening up and having that vulnerable conversation with others. Right? In this phase is when you can kind of start to ask those coaching questions. What hasn't been tried? What do we now know? What new approaches could we take? Right? We're guiding and directing as opposed to telling and demanding when we move into the sharing phase. All of this information comes to us from the Center for Creative Leadership. And there's all kinds of open source resources available to us around listening and positive relationships. And you can see different steps and key aspects of listening. This just happens to be the one that we really wanted to share with you today, so that we're paying attention, we're withholding that judgment, we're reflecting, we're clarifying, kind of summarizing, and then we're sharing together. As we wrap up our session, I want you to think of yourself. Just pause for a moment and all of this information that has been shared with you in these past moments, and consider, what key active listening skill would you start practicing today? Is it going to be some things around paying attention? Do you recognize that you need to dial back on your judgment, maybe your criticism, and sharing your own opinion? Maybe it's trying out some of those sentence strings that we shared in the reflect and clarify phases. Maybe it's just even being able to really practice stepping back and being able to summarize what someone is sharing with you. That really takes some key listening and creating that mental attention in order to summarize what they've been sharing. Maybe it's learning how to share your own perspective into a conversation in a way that creates that understanding. Remembering that we want to seek first to understand and then be understood. Listening is a magnetic and strange thing, a creative force. The friends who listen to us are the ones we move toward. When we are listened to, it creates us, makes us unfold and expand. Isn't that great? Right? When we think about the people we want to spend time with, the people we move toward, The people that we're inviting into our lives, they're the ones that we know will listen to us. We have the opportunity to be that for the young people in our lives. I really just encourage you to just pause and reflect and consider how you too want to be a listener so that your kid hears you. Thank you for spending time with us today. Welcome to Discover You. We are happy to have you. We have regular monthly workshops that you can participate in live. Follow us on our social media, join us at our website, register for these open source free free workshops, and we will look forward to seeing you in person in the future.